Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from around the world. You are listening live from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., to the Exceptional Conservative Show on the Exceptional Conservative Network, TECN. We are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation. First to the Republican and then the socialists. Wow, a big night here in Washington, D.C. You would think that people had come out for the March for Life or something. Well, actually, that may have influenced the decision that was made tonight. Donald John Trump, the 45th President of the United States of America, holding fast to his promises and has a very strong candidate for Supreme Court Justice, Neil Gorsuch from out of Colorado. Studied at Oxford, where he got his doctorate degree, Harvard, where he had his Juris Doctorate. Just a brilliant man. Clerked under Byron Whizzer White, and as well under Anthony Kennedy. Now, those are two big differences. Now, for those people who are listening tonight, your Second Amendment rights are going to be just fine under this particular Supreme Court justice. You won't have to worry about a thing. I'm not too certain about the Right to Life group just yet. I'm just not too certain. If he sides with his original clerkship under Byron Whizzer White, the Supreme Court justice that died in 1992, was a great football player, you may see Roe v. Wade overturned during the Trump administration time period. However, if he akins himself to Anthony Kennedy, Roe v. Wade stays in place until we find a more constructionist that doesn't believe in the law unchanged per se, that precedence has been set and we need not steer from it. So very big and exciting night tonight. So glad to have you all here on this particular night. We have, if he attends himself. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Deborah. Deborah says I have a nice shirt and tie on. Mary Brockman's in the chat room. Mary is my bouncer. If you diss her, you diss me, you will be dismissed. In about 2 minutes, we will be talking with none other than Colin Hanna. And what a great night to talk with him. In fact, on this night that we may have found the Supreme Court justice to overturn the power of EPA. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want y'all to sit back and relax. You know what we do at this particular juncture? Get our handy-dandy board. We put our right hand over our heart, and we listen to the children lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Take it away, kids.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. There we go. I think those kids are already in college by now. Ladies and gentlemen, Colin Hanna, we are blessed this particular evening to be with. He happens to be, in this particular case, the president of LetFreedomRing.com. And quite frankly, his mission is to promote constitutional government, economic freedom, and traditional values. What a great opportunity it is to talk to a man who believes that our tax structure needs to be reformed and much needs to be done in order to improve our economic wherewithal. So without a shadow of a doubt, we're going to give him a ringy-dingy at this particular moment. We call him do-do-do, as it rings. One ringy-dingy, two ringy-dingies. Colin Hanna, it's a great honor and privilege to have you on the air with us. You are talking with the exceptional one, MCCLENTON, and you are live on the Exceptional Conservative Show.
Well, thank you, Ken. How are you this evening?
I am elated to be talking with you at this time of season when we have a president who says he's going to keep all of his promises. And
Well, he's starting out like a house of fire, isn't he?
ain't he? And so that gives us a great deal of hope and joy at this particular moment. But I wanted to talk with you, Colin Hanna, about your organization, Let Freedom Ring. Why did you use that phrase to promote constitutional government, economic freedom, and traditional values?
Well, it's just it's one of the great expressions of liberty in our sort of national literature body, and certainly songs and whatnot. But mostly, it simply expresses the deep longing for freedom that I think is part and parcel of being an American.
Exactly.
And the line comes from the song that many people refer to as "My Country 'Tis of Thee," and it is. It's the sweet land of liberty, and it's our song.
Indeed, it is, and we have been missing much of it over the past 77 decades, dating all the way back to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and maybe even sooner than that, where people exchanged their freedom for government security. And how has that turned out for us?
Well, I think it was actually Benjamin Franklin, if I'm not mistaken. It could have been someone else who said that people who were willing to give up liberty in order to achieve security will wind up with neither.
Yes, exactly. And I think we're at that particular point. Listen, speaking of Donald John Trump, the 45th president of the United States, his biggest conversations early on was about China. And now he's talking about infrastructure development and investment in our country, including a huge project down in Texas for speed trade. I wanted to get your thoughts in terms of, is China really an economic risk to us? Or is that kind of like just rhetoric and saber rattling for trade purposes?
No, it's not saber rattling at all. In fact, not only is China the second largest economy in the world and growing fast, even if its rate of growth has slowed down somewhat, it's still between 2 and 3 times our rate of growth. So the gap is clearly being narrowed. But it's also a nation that is completely comfortable with violating all kinds of norms of international law, particularly law when it comes to things like intellectual property. Many people don't realize that intellectual property, as we call it now, it used to be called inventions and writings and so on, is actually enshrined in the main body of the Constitution as one of the things that is central to our entire national value system, that this would be a country where inventors could invent and then have their invention protected from theft. Well, that became the worldwide system of trademarks and copyrights and all of that. And the Chinese government itself, not just bad actors in China, Ken, but the government itself, an agent, a department of the government, is actively involved in stealing intellectual property, not only from our government websites, but from our commercial websites.
Mm-hmm.
They have done an all-out assault on things like U.S. Steel, where they have developed at great expense and years of work, lighter and stronger steels that have tremendous implications for the defense and aircraft industry, for instance. And that particular set of patents has been stolen by the Chinese, by an agent of the Chinese government, and has been used to try to weaken the financial strength of American steel companies by flooding the world with steel that was not just reverse engineered, but actually stolen from the actual patent designs. And that's the kind of thing that the average American can, when they learn of it, they've got to see the deep-seated malevolence of that Chinese frame of mind. It's not just competition. It's not just cheap labor. It is egregious violation of all kinds of standards of law and trade.
Now, we're talking tonight with Colin Hanna, who is the president of Let Freedom Ring USA. They promote traditional values. They promote economic freedom. They promote what is best about America. And we need all of those particular things in terms of a constitutional government. But there's some people listening to you tonight, Mr. Hanna, and they're saying to themselves, wait a minute. These are Wall Street barons. If they lost anything to China, they already were working on something new. That's not going to be a big loss to us. There's no real loss, economic loss to our country because some other country steals our old secrets.
Well, they're not old secrets. They're state-of-the-art secrets.
Yes.
And in our country in particular, the single largest industry that contributes to a positive balance of payments, the largest positive balance of payments comes from the aircraft industry. And that's exactly where China is attacking our corporate structures. Everyone thinks about China attacking the Department of Defense because there's been a lot of publicity about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the greater damage goes to attacking those very basic industries, those industries which form the skeleton, the superstructure of our entire national economy and our national defense. You know, the aircraft industry depends on both commercial and military aircraft in order for it to be viable. You can't just have a military aircraft industry. Your cost of planes would be astronomical. So the Chinese erode the financial basis for the aircraft industry and thereby weaken our ability to continue to have state-of-the-art fighter jets, for example.
So this is not just because a lot of people listen to Donald Trump and they like to side and say that, well, he's a billionaire, he's a rich man, he's just trying to make as much profit as he possibly can. These type of encumbrances against America's companies greatly appreciate the cost of not only the labor but also the product itself, and reduces the amount of jobs that are created as a result of the infringement on our rights and liberties by foreign entities like China, for instance.
Exactly right, and it is illegal from any number of different standpoints. There's a thing called the International Trade Court, and for instance, our U.S. Steel Company has a case in the International Trade Court against China. It's the first case of cyber theft of intellectual property that has ever come before the International Trade Court, and they haven't yet figured out exactly how they're going to handle it. This stuff is cutting edge, and it's a genuine threat, not just to the profits of U.S. Steel, but to our basic defense establishment.
Now,
that's serious.
Now, Claudia in our chat room, better known as Everyone, has this question for you, Mr. Hanna. She says, how else can we get them to pay for their theft? I mean, are we asking for too much already?
Are we asking for too much? No, I don't think we're probably asking for enough. We need to have sanctions that are supported by the international community that make it illegal to engage in the kind of practices which China is doing. I'll give you another example.
Mm-hmm.
Some of this Chinese steel, they pass through Vietnam, where there is a different provision on how much Vietnamese steel can come into the United States. So they take Chinese steel and run it over to Vietnam, give it a white wipe of some sort of a chemical wipe or something, and then say that it's been remanufactured as Vietnamese steel. I mean, it's outrageous.
That's thief. That's theft. I mean, that's just absolute malicious theft. And we allow them to get away with that in our trade practices?
Well, we haven't been enforcing them. I hope that the new president, when he gets done with some of his top line issues, begins to pay attention to things like this, because they're truly central to our entire defense establishment. I mean, what are the crown jewels, Ken, of our defense? They are steel, shipbuilding, and aircraft, right?
Yep, that's absolutely right.
So the Chinese are doing their very best to erode the basis of all of them, and we need to wake Americans up to it. And you know, we think that Chinese intellectual property theft is the province of things like sneakers and pocketbooks and watches and whatnot. And what the heck, if we can get a Gucci pocketbook for 25% of what it would cost in the New York store, we might even think that's kind of cool. If we can get a pirated copy of a DVD or a piece of music or a movie or something like that, we may think that that's sort of the free market at work. That's not where we ought to be focusing our concerns. We ought to be focusing our concerns at our basic industries and the assault that China's having against them. And by one estimate, Ken, 90-some% of all of the commercial hacking that occurs in the United States, I'm not talking about government sites now, I'm talking about private sector sites, 90% of it originates in China.
Wow. Definitely not a great friend, a much better enemy. We're talking China, we're talking trade, and we're talking about the complicit nature of theft around the world that has America bound until we have someone who's ready to enforce our trade laws with great magnitude, forcing there to be a even playing field. And I want to talk with you about that, Mr. Hanna. We're talking with Colin Hanna, who was president of the Left Freedom Ring USA Inc. I want to talk with you about this idea of forcing our trade laws on China, because when we told Mexico that we were going to enforce immigration laws, and part of that we saw over the weekend, and we were going to be very stern with them and create a wall, both technological as well as a physical barrier. China came in and said, forget the USA, we'll take up the slack for you. Whatever they fall off of, we'll pick up. Is that the type of thing that's going to happen to us? Not only the loss of jobs, but also the loss of support from the international community in support of China?
Well, I can't really speak to that from an immigration standpoint. China's impact on immigration is really very different than its impact on manufacturing and international trade.
Yeah, exactly. But there have been other nations that said that they would pick up the slack if we begin to be more pronounced in our trade negotiations. Do you fear retaliation, pretty much a trade war from other nations that may penalize American consumers?
I think that there's likely to be some kind of quid pro quo in any effort to recapture American jobs and protect American manufacturing. So I do think that that's a threat. But we also have to consider what is the cost of cheaper goods when it comes as a result of vast numbers of American jobs disappearing and increases in unemployment. The overall economic cost, I think, needs to be recalculated. Ken, there's been a kind of an orthodoxy with regard to international trade, which says free trade benefits everyone. And I think we're seeing that lopsided free trade that is in part stimulated through currency manipulation and the like does not benefit everyone. it in fact erodes our economic base. And I think we have to be mighty careful about that. Ours is the number one market for any company, any country in the world who wants to sell in the most dynamic, most economically robust economy in the world. They all want to sell their goods here, and in many cases they won't let us sell our goods there, and that's no longer free trade.
Thank you for making that point very pronounced this particular evening, because when we listen to the liberal media, it's all about why are you whining and complaining. They are small third world nations. They're just trying to make it. And the bottom line is free trade is not lopsided trade. It has to be an even playing field for all parties. And everybody succeeds when there's an even playing field.
Well, this new movement for so-called border adjustment taxes, which is a little bit different than an old-fashioned tariff, turns out to be something that is engaged in by far more countries than the average person realizes. And it does, in fact, serve as an equalizing factor between nations based upon balance of payments. So if there is a strong balance of payments imbalance between two countries, then the country that is on the losing end gets a benefit from a border adjustment tax.
Mm-hmm.
If the trade is balanced, then the tax in effect disappears. It equalizes. So I don't pretend to be an economist who can fully explain exactly all of the inner workings of a border adjustment tax, but I suggest to you that that's the kind of path that I expect the Trump administration to start to very cautiously go down.
We're talking with Colin Hanna tonight. He is the president of Let Freedom Ring, an organization that believes in constitutional government, economic freedom, and traditional values. And we've been talking about the trade scenario and situations with China, that they are complicit in manipulating currency, that they are complicit in stealing through hacking information from private companies. Many people focus on the government issue when really they're stealing a great deal of information and using our state-of-the-art plans and intellectual capital for their own support and development. I want to turn our attention to the tax situation here. And you mentioned the border tax, but a lot of people in the 695, 495, 295 corridor, known as the DC Beltway, are saying, why didn't Donald Trump focus on taxes, something that we all agreed on, instead of focusing on immigration? Did you want him to focus on reforming the tax policy first?
Well, I don't know about first, but I certainly, pardon me, I certainly support tax simplification. In fact, Let Freedom Ring for the last 2 years has been promoting what we called sunset the tax code as a way of breaking the stalemate on tax reform. And if a unified Republican government of Trump in the White House and majorities in both the House and the Senate don't get tax reform moving soon, we're going to revive the sunset the tax code project, which simply says, Ken,
yes,
let's set a date certain by which we end the entire tax code. Set it far enough out into the future that it's not going to create a tremendous amount of market chaos, and yet it has to be close enough to the present to stimulate real action. So we said December 31st, 2019 would be a good number. So say that you're going to end the current tax code by December 31st, 2019, and then you've got between now and then to devise a new tax code to replace it. But it creates a deadline. And Ken, how much have you seen in watching Congress for the last couple of years as to whether or not a deadline helps get them moving?
You talk about a bonfire underneath your feet. That would do it. That is genius, because you hear people talk about, let's just move the top tax rate for personal income down from 45% to 40. Let's rule the corporate tax down from 35% down to 20 or 15.
That's nibbling around the edges.
Thank you. Can you explain that to people?
I mean, let me give you another example. The form of the tax code that most of the tax practitioners, accountants and tax lawyers and so on use, is published by a company called Commerce Clearinghouse. And in that particular form, our tax code, Ken, is over 70,000 pages long.
Woo!
70,000 pages. How many pages is a big encyclopedia or dictionary?
Yeah.
Maybe 1,000 pages. Think about that. 70 thick dictionaries piled on top of one another. I'll tell you, Ken, there is nobody, and I mean nobody, who can claim to understand it all. And if you have a tax code that people can't understand, you have a tax code that is inherently unfair.
Now, Mr. Hanna, people are going to say that constructionists like yourself and conservatives like me, we're just trying to get off from paying taxes. Poor people are going to suffer immensely because you're not going to be able to support them with all of your wealth, and you should feel morally sensitive to poor people and let government programs work. And quite frankly, your type of structure of making certain that rich people pay the fewest amount of taxes and corporations pay no taxes is going to destroy our U.S. government.
I never said anything like that. I just think the taxes should be simple. They should be fair. Mm-hmm. I think it is advantageous for everyone to have at least some small stake in the tax system. I have not taken a position on, for instance, a consumption tax like the fair tax versus a flat tax versus a three-bracket tax. All I'm saying is that you need to have a tax code that is fair and that people can understand, not a 70,000-page monstrosity. So the way to redo the tax code, Ken, mm-hmm. is not to start from 70,000 pages and try to tear out a few that you don't like,
exactly,
that have some sort of a loophole in them. Mm-hmm. You need to start from a blank slate.
Thank you. And I love the fact that you explained that, because a lot of people believe that it doesn't matter whether you're constitutionalist, whether you're conservative, and you don't believe that the tax rate, as high as it is, should be the way it is, or the way it's structured now should, in terms of its complexity, should be modulated to a more simple structure. It doesn't matter that those on the left will always say you're trying to put all of the hurt and harm and danger on the poor, and that's not what a tax structure does. Am I right to believe that taxes actually...
I think that's right. In fact, yeah. I would argue that Bernie Sanders should support sunset the tax code every bit as much as Rand Paul does. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because in both cases, you want to start from a blank slate and construct what you think is a fair code. Let that be the debate that takes place in the forefront of the American public's mind.
Now, I want to ask you this, because we're running out of time, and I'm honored by the fact that you're here, and I want you to come back.
I'm delighted to be on your show, Ken.
Because free enterprise, I really have believed, at least over the past 8 years, has been under an enormous stranglehold. And the first attack by the Trump administration was on Obamacare. And I want to get your thoughts in terms of that. Is that one of the mechanisms that's going to free up our capitalist structure so that we are competitive around the world?
I think Obamacare is unnecessarily complex, but I don't think that having provided what amounts to a form of universal health care, that it can in fact be rolled back and removed as an entitlement. I do think that some form of premium support that allows the free market to determine the most efficient way of delivering health insurance to people makes all the sense rather than just a state-by-state insurance market is something that ought to be looked at. But I don't think that we're going to be able to go back from providing some kind of financial support for the poorest people to obtain some form of health care. I don't think that we're going to be able to unwind that and reduce overall government expenditures in health care by enough to be an economic stimulus by itself.
Exactly. And now, while I am not in favor of expanding Medicare, and I really believe that this is a matter that should be held to the states, is it going to be, as the burden has been lifted thanks to the executive order of poor people having to pay the 2% tax on their income this year, does this set in a course the discussion of how the free market versus the government can better handle healthcare?
Well, I hope so, because we need to have a more patient-centered, more competitive health insurance marketplace rather than have the government talk about exactly how health care is to be delivered.
Listen, you are a great pioneer and a hard worker in terms of getting the message out of simplifying our tax code so that we are economically free. How can individuals find out more about you and support your endeavors? Is there a newsletter?
Go to our website. Our website is letfreedomringusa.com, and you can sign up to be a ringer, as we call our members, and it costs nothing. Just sign up right on there and become a member of Let Freedom Ring or a ringer.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome. Colin Hanna is with us tonight, president of Let Freedom Ring, Inc. We thank you so much for coming on the program and espousing why we should be concerned about China and how we can actually become economically free in this country.
Terrific, Ken. Thanks so much. Appreciate being on your show.
Thank you. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to have Colin Hanna on our program. We look forward to him coming back. And as I was talking with him, it reminded me of a phrase that I hear every afternoon on drive time. Even when we're wrong, we're right. And we can have our disagreements on terms of how we see the instrument of government. But certainly there is now room for conversation, as before in the 8 years that preceded us, there was no conversation at all. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with more of the best of the most influential urban conservative talk show in the world. It is the Exceptional Conservative Show, live from the nation's capital on the Exceptional Conservative Network. You can listen to us better if you come into the exceptionalconservativeshow.com, the Euro Pacific Bank Limited TECN chat room, and have a wonderful conversation with my bouncer, Mary Brockman. We'll be right back as you're listening to us on SHR Media Live, HP Talk Radio Live, and as well, Red Nation Rising at 2 a.m. on the Liberty Channel.
Want to know the best kept secret in flea and tick control? It's the money you'll save with 1-800-PET-MEDS. Save 30, 40, even 50% on veterinary recommended brands for your pet, and we'll deliver them free right to your door. And now you can get the safe and effective results of a top brand for even less with new Flea for X Plus. 4-way action to kill fleas, ticks, lice, and mosquitoes. Plus, it starts working in 5 minutes to 1 hour and is backed by our 100% happy guarantee. Call now or order online from 1-800-PET-MEDS.
Hi, my name is Willie Lawson of The Willie Lawson Show here on the Exceptional Conservative Network, Monday through Fridays, 9 a.m. They told me that I needed to be humble, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I decided to be awesome instead. That's The Willie Lawson Show, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. here on the Exceptional Conservative Network.
From the war front to the streets of our nation's capital, men of faith, Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, and Kenneth McClinton, the exceptional conservative, bring both constitutional gravitas and spiritual perspective on today's issues to the most influential Christian urban talk show, 9:05 p.m. Eastern, Thursdays. It's a new day on a new day, black and red.
Hello, I'm Donovan Larkins, pastor of Spirit of Life Christian Center in Dayton, Ohio. But I'm also the director of Shekinah Ranch and the Shekinah Ranch Protecting Innocence campaign. And today I want to just share with you some of our materials that we've developed so that you too can be part of promoting prevention, education, and safety awareness to youth. We have now our Protecting Innocence t-shirt. It's a powerful marquee or billboard that you can purchase and wear yourself that brings awareness that children need advocacy. It's a powerful, powerful piece. It's simply a picture of that with this marquee here with some additional wording on it, and you will want to be a part of that. We have posters that any of you pastors or any of you community centers, you may want to obtain some of these posters and post in the recreation center. It would be great to post this in the foyer of your church. It would be awesome for you to post this throughout the schools of your community. Involvement is what's necessary. Involvement is what makes a difference. We know that in order for evil to triumph, all that is necessary is for good men and women to do nothing. And then we have these little marquees. You can order 100 of them, you can order 50 of them, and you can pass them around to your family. You can pass them around at a family event or a local event that you're going to be at a festival or something. These are very handy, they're very cost efficient, and they make a powerful statement. They really make an impact. And then we have our Protecting Innocence ribbon. And in this package, it's not only just the ribbon, but it also has a message, a safety awareness message, actually a tip. And the tip encourages parents to exercise scrutiny with the relationships that your children are involved with. Today, we see more and more children being victimized by teachers, by coaches, and by other people, other supposedly trusted individuals. And we have to prepare our children if we plan for them to be safe. And then you will want to be involved with the overall Protecting Innocence campaign, because we're making plans right now to build a retreat recovery center on our 150-acre campus where Shekinah Ranch is housed. And you can get this brochure. We can email it to you. That way there's no cost associated with it, so that you can learn how you can join our Protecting Innocence teams. We are communicating with people globally, all over the world, that are interested in how together we can protect children from dirty, evil child molesters. We love to have you on board. We need your support. We want your prayers, and we welcome your financial contributions. Again, I'm Donovan Larkins, Shekinah Ranch Protecting Innocence campaign. And by the way, camps are coming. So call us so that you can register your child at 937-422-6029. We'll see you later.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Exceptional Conservative Network and yours truly, Ken McClinton, chairman of the Open Heart Closed Case, Inc. And I got to give you some news on that tonight. We support Donovan Larkin to the fullest. We're trying to raise $10,000. You heard that there is a ranch, a summer program to help a lot of children who have suffered from sexual abuse throughout the country, in fact, and especially in the Dayton suburb in inner cities of Dayton. And we're trying to help them raise that $10,000. The other great thing about that is that $3,000 of that goes towards a campaign of raising money for scholarship at Syracuse in the name of Janis Milton, my daughter, the 27-year-old reporter who was killed by gang members. Listen, if you don't think this stuff happens, it does happen. And let me give you a story. An illegal Mexican alien arrested for child sexual assault. Yes, this occurred earlier this year, in fact. It was in June of 2016, in fact, to be more specific. An illegal alien from Mexico was arrested on Monday for sexual assault of a child. U.S. Marshals apprehended Anselmo Javier Jimenez, 45, in North Carolina. Javier Jimenez has been wanted in Omaha for first-degree sexual assault of a child since June 2016. Javier Jimenez was determined to be a citizen and national of Mexico, present in the United States illegally. An immigration detainer was placed with the Surrey County Jail in order to hold him for ICE, which is Immigration and Customs Enforcement, upon his release from local custody. News of the arrest arrived only days before President-elect Donald Trump was sworn into office. So, ladies and gentlemen, this toughness that we're talking about, thanks to that toughness of protecting our borders, we're able to apprehend Anselmo Javier Jimenez, who sexually assaulted a child back in June 2016. Does it happen? Yes, it happens. And I put that in the chat room to show people that it does happen. Child sexual abuse headlines are always in the news, but we always seem to show up after the fact. We want to be there for them before the fact. And so, ladies and gentlemen, help us raise that $10,000. You can do so simply by pointing to the front page of the exceptionalconservativeshow.com, or even if you're in the TECS chat room area, there's a little red button to your left or right, however way you look on your computer, in which you can click on and make your donation. 5, 10, 25, 100, 1,000. Give the whole 10,000. But however way you do it, let us take care of our own, our young people, our children, and protect them from the wolves that don't mind taking away their innocence. For those people who are listening to us on Red Nation Rising, thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. I know that you all are getting ready to go away after the station break. And thank you so much for tuning in at 2 a.m. on the Liberty Channel and spreading the good news of conservatism, capitalism, constitutionalism, and Christianity. Ladies and gentlemen, what a huge night tonight has been for the presidency of Donald John Trump. They picked a Supreme Court justice tonight. And I want to give you some more details about that particular Supreme Court justice. And I'll give that some information to you, same information that I'm using, you can spread and pass on to other people. And we know that Janis comes up in the next hour. Janis Hall, the J. Hall World Report. We'll be talking with her about a lot of stuff that's happening in that quote-unquote Muslim ban, which a bold-faced lie. It is not a Muslim ban, which actually those who have been practicing the Muslim ban have been Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and all the other nations, Islamic nations that refuse to take in the PLO. Didn't bring them back home. That's what we call a Muslim ban. But ladies and gentlemen, Neil Gorsuch was selected this particular evening as the Supreme Court Justice to replace Justin Antonin Scalia. He is noted on the court in Colorado as a very strict originalist, someone who does not believe in infringement of the Second Amendment, which has a lot of people on the left, the pro-gun control groups they were already fighting this afternoon when they found out that it was going to be Gorsuch. And please don't belittle my intelligence by thinking that these leaks didn't come out to let you know that it would be Gorsuch and not Thomas Pryor from Alabama, who would have been the trifecta for me regarding abortion, regarding gun control and the First Amendment. He would have been the full-scale replacement to Scalia, a great conservative compliment. But now we have a concern. And I want to go through these particular things with you. Everyone's talking about the fact that he ruled in favor of Christian organizations that objected to providing their employees with health insurance covering contraceptives. Burwell versus Hobby Lobby Stores Incorporated in the 10th Circuit of the United States Court of Appeals. He fought against that and wrote against it as part of the contraceptive mandate in the Affordable Care Act. He wrote this in his opinion. The ACA's mandate requires them to violate their religious faith. Now, remember tonight when he was speaking, he made reference to the fact that his faith matters to him. His faith matters to him. Now, he didn't go out and say Jesus is the reason for the season, but stick a pin on that one, and it goes back to this particular point right here in his dissent. By forcing them to lend, the ACA's mandate requires them to violate their religious faith by forcing them to lend an impermissible degree of assistance to conduct their religion teaches to be gravely wrong. As they understand it, ordering their companies to provide insurance coverage for drugs or devices whose use is consistent with their faith itself violates their faith, representing a degree of complicity their religion disallows. Now, some people are trying to stretch that to Roe v. Wade. I don't feel that's a stretch towards. I think in terms of being a strict constructionalist, he understands that it's not the role of the federal government to be involved in creating national health care. In the sense, I really believe all the way down to Medicare. But in a sense, it is not the federal government's role to use their device of legislation to infringe on one's First Amendment right to the freedom of religion. Okay? It's not the government's right. And so the Affordable Care Act is unconstitutional in that role if you apply his logic in the Burwell versus Hobby Lobby stores. He's also noted as a strict constructionist. Now, I'm going to talk with you probably in the latter half of the fact what's the difference between Byron Whizzer White and not Anthony Scalia, forgive me, as he's replacing Anthony Scalia, but Anthony Weiner. There's a big difference between the two. While they may come from the same store in terms of conservative thinking and love the Constitution, Kennedy is much more moderate than Whizzer White was. So I'm trying to figure out, because he clerked for both of them, where are you on this kind of stuff? But he says this, and let me get this point. Gorsuch explained in a speech that a justice's job is to apply the law as it is, focusing backward, not forward, and looking to text, structure, and history to decide what a reasonable reader at the time of the events in question would have understood the law to be. Now, if anybody has ever listened to an American conservative's exploration of the inspired word of God, my Sunday morning Bible study, how often do you hear me say the very same things about Scripture? That you cannot use a modern interpretation of Scripture to devouse a apt ruling or thought or philosophy from. You have to take it as it was spoken in its time, in the context of its era, so that you might know the thoughts of the founding fathers, or at least Jesus Christ. So as you can see now, so for all of you who have not been listening to an African-American conservative, no, that's not African, an American conservative exploration of the inspired word of God, you need to tune in and listen, because literally what Gorsuch just says, and everyone's applauding Everything. What he just said is the same thing I say every Sunday morning. You cannot tell me that abortion is constitutional when the founding fathers didn't put it in place. Just, he says, not to decide cases based on their own moral convictions or the policy consequences they believe might serve society best. See, now that, not based on the, see, everybody's all anxious about the Hobby Lobby decision, like that's going to be the thing that turns the Roe v. Wade thing around. No, you have to pay attention. I'm going to put it in here in the chat room for everybody. You could, because all your liberal friends are already telling us that he's unconstitutional. It's amazing how liberals who hate the Constitution can tell you that someone is unconstitutional, even though they went through 8 years of the worst constitutional presidency in American history. Yeah, I think I said that. Forgive me. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to say I'm going to run out of time here, and I don't want to begrudge the time period. And Deborah, thank you so much for being in our chat room this evening and listening to us. But I want you to understand where he comes from in terms of this, and not take things the way the media, especially on the left or the right, might tell you. You need to read what people say to know how they will think and act along the way. Now, if we use his thinking on how important it is to be aligned with the founding fathers, you might just say, certainly, if your Second Amendment, I already told you, you're fine. Yeah, this is the guy you wanted. But certainly, First Amendment, definitely. Roe v. Wade, still not convinced. He also wrote, like Justice Scalia, he sometimes reaches results. Well, at least Jeffrey Rosen of the National Constitution Center told Politico this. He said, like Justice Scalia, he sometimes reaches results that favor liberals when he thinks the history or the text of the Constitution or the law require it, especially in areas like criminal law or the rights of religious minorities. But unlike Scalia, he's less willing to defer to regulations and might be more willing to second-guess Trump's regulatory decision. So I'm just telling you all right now, he clerked under Anthony Kennedy. He also clerked under very conservative Byron Whizzer White. I don't know how close to Whizzer White he is, which is why I think Thomas Pryor would have been a better choice. If you're going to go ballistic in nuclear with someone that you know for a fact is not going to look at the liberal point of view as a progressive context of law in which we have to go with the flow rather than understanding the concepts and the credence of the context of law at that particular time period. So we'll take a look a little bit later on this. Coming up right after this lovely period, this lovely break, you get a chance to relax and enjoy yourself. Get your little fruit, whatever it is that you all, whatever you eat at breakfast time. I'm quite certain that you're eating it now and getting prepared for that weigh-in at the doctor's office. But if you are planning on doing that, make certain that you do this. Stay tuned for more of the best in urban conservative talk on the exceptionalconservativeshow.com. And also, for those of you who happen to go away, you got to go to work, or you getting ready to go on the road and drive or whatever, download the mobile app for our programs. So you never miss Melanie, you never miss Willie, you never miss Shannon and Mike or Ralph and Lonnie. You never miss them. And certainly you don't want to miss me. We'll be right back right after these messages. And for those in the Euro Pacific Bank Limited TECN chat room, I will put that particular app download in there for you tonight.
times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
Good morning.
I'm Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Okay, folks, that's not how it goes. I think I'm Shannon, and
I
you're
think so.
Michael.
Yeah.
Okay. We are The Right Way with Shannon and Mike.
Join us from 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time.
Live on SHR Media.
And on TECN.
Where we'll be talking about all kinds of things.
From sports and politics.
To food and entertainment.
To money.
Family.
And anything else in between.
Community, holidays, all kinds of things.
It'll be great. Join us from 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time.
Is your PC causing major headaches? Now there's an easy way to make your computer run like new again. Introducing System Mechanic, America's #1 PC performance software. System Mechanic scans your entire PC for over 200 different types of errors. It then automatically fixes even the most stubborn and frustrating PC problems, restoring full speed and stability in minutes. Visit runlikenew.com to try it free.
It's a love story like no other. From God's heart to yours. And for 30 years, it's been at the heart of every book, Bible, CD, gift, and resource from ChristianBook.com. Over 500,000 products, always at the very best value. ChristianBook.com. Everything Christian. Because it's our story, too.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, coming soon to ossicles near you. Excelsior.
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of Infused Restaurant, and today I'm going to walk you through some of the meals that we prepare here. We're making a pizza. We use fresh Italian sausage that we cook here and spice it up. Our pizza dough is in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and ingredient. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and the Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs as well as some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now we're going to prepare our famous blackened tilapia and grits, our fish and grits on the menu. The fish is ready and our meal will be complete. Let me tell you about our infused beef burger. We kick the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA round chuck ham patty burgers, like half a pound of burgers, and we're going to grill it to perfection. After I flip the burger, we add the sauce and let it cook on into the meat just a little bit. We're going to add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger to spice it up a bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland. is the place to be. It is Infused Restaurant. You can go down to the very bottom of the first page of the exceptionalconservativeShow.com, and you'll look at some of that great food first and foremost. You can click on, and you'll see exactly the times that they're open, and you can take a look at their menus, which are it's actually to dine for. I will say that. And simply, I would encourage you with all of my heart to go to Infused Restaurant and make sure that you eat twice if you can. Breakfast, dinner, supper, however way you wish to do it, but the food is off the chain. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to say this. First and foremost, I want to thank Colin Hanna from Let Freedom Ring, Inc., for coming on and talking with us about concerns about trade and free enterprise in America. But also, I spoke about Neil Gorsuch, the Supreme Court Justice, who, he's not a Supreme Court Justice yet, but he is a judge from Colorado who is being considered for the Supreme Court. And quite frankly, during that particular time period, I may have misspoke or missaid something regarding my show in describing it. It is a very foul word to use publicly. Now, what you do in private conversation is to your own. And I am telling you, I am no angel in private consult or discourse. I screw up and fall short of the glory of God sometimes. But if I did say something that was revoltingly offensive to anybody during that latter quarter of our program, I'm going to publicly apologize. And certainly I will go back and listen and make sure I'm not putting explicit on this particular show. I've never had an explicit in the 6 years that I've done a show, and to have it happen here, I simply do apologize to each and every one of my listeners, especially those in the chat roll. It is not my practice, my common practice, and I will make certain in repenting before the Lord that I don't make it a common practice, as I dedicated this show to Him. And I certainly don't want to defile it in such a magnanimous way as to offend with my lips or my mouth the words that I speak tonight. So I am succinctly concerned that I did. If I did, I do apologize to each and every single listener. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have the divine pleasure of talking with some young lady who has a unique understanding, so unique that I have her here every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. We really love and adore her. Janis Hall, the J Hall World Report. Let's call her up right now. Okay. There we go. One ringy dingy, two ringy dingies. Bam. All right. Good evening, Ms. Hall. Janis Hall. It's a pleasure to have you on the air for the J Hall World Report.
Always happy to be here.
Always great to be
here.
You
have a lot to talk about.
You ain't lying. There is so much going on in the world. And what's up with this Muslim ban? Why does Donald Trump hate Muslims?
Okay. So, well, I mean, there's something to be said for displacing Muslims. He did call terrorists, what was it, dirty kicking rats or something like that?
Yeah, right, close enough.
It was that.
It was that.
No, basically, yeah, there's been a huge uproar over Trump's executive order to stop people from 7 Muslim countries coming into the U.S. for 90 days. And the reason for this is essentially all of the states that are on that list, plus Iran. Iran wouldn't qualify for what I'm about to say. Anyway, most of the states, with the exception of Iran, are essentially failed states. And there had been concern even under the Obama administration that a lot of the people coming in from these places, or nationals from these places, you couldn't vet them properly. You didn't really know who was coming in, predominantly because there just wasn't the information there, because essentially the governments had, collapsed.
Yeah.
So what Trump wants to do is have essentially the State Department come up with kind of an alternative way of how can we vet these people that we're content with and relatively confident that we're not letting in people we don't want to let in.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me just go through some of these countries, and you tell me if I have defined them correctly. The CIA has named Iran as a terrorist state. Is that correct?
I believe it is.
Oh, okay. And Iraq is at war right now with Iran, and as well ISIS. Am I correct on that one?
Yep, pretty much.
Okay. In Syria, we don't know who's fighting who, and they certainly don't have. If you look at the buildings that are left standing, if there are any, there's no information about anybody from Syria. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
Okay. And on top of it, Somalia is the home for piracy.
Right.
And by golly, when you look at Hamas, they live in Lebanon. And then you have Libya as well, and they're going through a civil war, and there's no information on who's coming on those boats into Italy. So literally, there is no vetting of Muslims out of those war-torn countries. Am I right?
Yes. Basically, it's like incredibly challenging to impossible to vet a lot of these people. And I think that this order that came through is perfectly legitimate. I mean, we let people in that we know are essentially not going to hurt us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to ask you, because a lot of people say that, by golly, we inconvenience them. Oh, lordy. But isn't it an inconvenience to be in Paris and have someone who's been vetted by Turkey perform a violent act, or maybe even in Germany?
Yes, it is an inconvenience, or more so, actually. I also do want to point out that the executive order also does state that there are exceptions can be made. It's basically at the discretion of, the officials. And was definitely, still interested in if there were essentially Christians coming from those countries that, they essentially should be admitted, because they are legitimately under persecution in those areas.
Wait a minute now. Wait a minute. Those Christians persecute the Muslims. That's what the liberals tell me. And so Christians don't deserve to have preferential treatment getting into our country.
That's what the liberals say.
But in all earnestness, under the Obama administration, it's just been basically an open door. If you say you're Muslim, you can come here.
Yeah. Well, let's not sell him short. I mean, he was basically an open door for anybody.
Yeah, that's very true. As long as you vote Democrat, you'll be just fine. But this is the retort that they give us, as this is a very foreign policy matter, and there is no constitutional right to be a citizen of the United States as a foreigner. I mean, just because you were born in Kenya doesn't make you an American citizen. You have to want to be here and actually follow the Constitution. But in a sense, people are saying, well, it took some of them 3.5 to maybe 4 years to be vetted, and then they got on an airplane to get here, and then they had to be vetted all over again, and that vetting kept them behind doors for anywhere between 3 to 12 hours, and that was an inconvenience. Is that the way we want America to be run, where we have to double vet people?
Quite frankly, I'm okay with it. I mean, while I suppose one could say it's not ideal, right? Everybody wants to have everything as convenient as possible. I'm still relatively okay with it. I know when I was in a Turkish airport, before getting on a plane to New York, there was a lot of security I had to go through.
Yes!
Yeah.
And quite frankly, they didn't do that because there wasn't a threat in America. I mean, we have had terrorism in our country, right? 125 people have been killed in just the past 2 years by terrorists, including Orlando. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Wow. So I want to ask you, because there are a lot of people in the conservative media who are saying that Donald Trump basically screwed this implementation up. You needed to give at least 90 days notice that you were going to ban people from coming into this country. Are they right? Is this botched?
There's a couple things that I'll bring up in this regard. I don't think that you had to give people notice. I do think that it was acceptable to allow people that essentially were in transit when this order happened to stay, to go through. I think that seems fair.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that the implementation wasn't perhaps the best. It definitely garnered a lot of attention, we'll say, which was, and not good attention either.
Yeah.
I mean, which probably would have happened regardless to some degree, but still wasn't, I feel like it probably could have gone smoother, right? And, or the administration could have been more on top of the language or the message that went out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in that case, yes, there was some things that were done wrong in that regard.
Exactly.
But the liberals running around with their hair on fire is rather, that's a bit of an overreaction.
Exactly.
Really.
That's definitely overreach. And I think one of the important things and if you could basically advise me on this one, right now there's not a sustainable government. I mean, a true in a true sense of the word in Syria. There's not it's certainly not one in Somalia. It hasn't been one in about 30 or 40 years. So if there's no real effectual government, how can we compare the vetting that they do to the vetting that we do? Is that outlandish in a sense?
To some degree, I think that there's probably ways of, mostly probably was just directly talking to people in interviews, of getting a sense of who, people are and who should be allowed into the country. And I think that is fine. Even from these, failed states that don't actually have a government where vetting is basically, almost impossible. So I'm not going to say that the border should be permanently closed to these people, but I do think that we do need to have a pretty robust and strong process that we're, pretty confident that the people that are coming in are who they say they are, and that are not there essentially to commit any terrorist activity.
I listen. I agree with you. I think we should be very cautious. It's kind of but seriously, when you were going to college, were there not kids in your dorm? Maybe, certainly not you, because I know your mom, but certainly not you, who had false ID, fake ID to go places. Am I right?
I have heard that has been done. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Certainly not you and none of your friends. But if we are that pressed to make certain that our own children have the right ID and all the information matches up with them, shouldn't we do the same where 70% of the actual individuals that come from those countries are men between the ages of 18 and 25? Shouldn't we be concerned that it's not women and children?
Yes, or at least very cautious.
Thank you, and thank you for not implicating any of your friends in college.
Okay. Truth be told, I don't actually think I knew anyone that had a fake ID.
Really? Wow, you go, girl. You were around a lot of honest folk. That's good. That's very good.
Hey, but by the time we actually went out, we didn't need them. We were all over 21. So
yeah, see, there you go. See, it worked out well for you. Now, in terms of Austria, well, actually, I don't want to talk about Austria just yet. We're going to run out of time. So I want to talk with you about Canada. When did Muslims become terrorists of Muslims? I don't understand. How does this work?
How does this work? So, the news out of Canada was that essentially a right-winger thought it was a good idea to go shoot up a mosque full of Muslims, killing several. And was this generally a good idea? No, it was not a good idea. Should not have done it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a reaction to all of the messages of tolerance and essentially acquiescence that the West is doing for Islam.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that you try and force people to accept something that they don't want, the more frustration is going to build up. And I don't think that this is going to be the last incident. We have been starting to see some happen in Europe, and I imagine that we will see more.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, until people have a sense that their government is properly protecting them and addressing the threat that Islam poses, people are going to do irrational things that they shouldn't be doing.
Now, let's get this straight, because the reporting out of there was that a Muslim had done this. Is that true? Was it a Muslim who killed fellow Muslims?
No. In this case, it was actually a Canadian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so this is the holy grail that Hillary Clinton and the rest of the left was looking for the past 18, 24 months or whatever, as she was running for the presidency, just to find someone who was on the right, a conservative, someone who had just lost their marbles and wanted to blow up a mosque. Was this someone from the right who performed this particular act of terrorism or hostility?
Essentially, yes. From the information that we have, that does seem to be the case.
Okay. Now, in a sense, Should we be concerned about retaliation in this country? And or is this just a isolated incident of a kook up in Canada?
I think that we should be concerned in this country, not necessarily because of the incident in Canada, but just in generally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't think that these incidents, either acts of terrorism, either one way or the other, are direct responses to anything specifically that had come before. I think it's just a general underlying tension and desire to do something.
Mm-hmm. Because in this country, we've had people like in Mississippi and in Texas who have been accused of burning down mosques or putting bacon and stuff on the door, but we found those to be Muslims themselves who were doing that to try to insinuate hostilities are active in this country. As far as we know, there are no well, there might be in terms of verbal, but there's certainly no physical abuse of Muslims at this particular juncture, burning down from those who happen to be on the right. Am I correct?
Yes, as far as I know, there is nothing in the U.S.
There you go. There you go. Because what they're saying, they're trying to extrapolate. If there's one kook in Canada, there must be 1 billion of those kooks here who all voted for Donald Trump, and they're going to go around burning down people's mosques now. And that's just not the case at all. Am I right on that one?
No, it's not. I mean, there's probably plenty of people in the U.S. that would like to do something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But are they going to do it? No, not right now.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I do want to stress that as Islam becomes, more of a threat, as terrorism increases, which I think that it will, and as the government continues to do nothing and demand that the population accept the situation, I think that the reaction is going to be that, people that don't like Muslims,
mm-hmm.
some of them will commit acts like this. I think that is the future.
Exactly. I want to ask you.
We're not there yet.
Exactly. We do not have that type of intensity of hatred in this country as much as those on the left would like to say that we do. We don't. We believe in freedom of religion and how you practice it. We don't believe in Sharia law. We do not believe in mercy killings in that particular sense or allowed killings of faith. That's something that we believe in, but we believe that you should be able to worship in your mosque as I worship in my house of God. That's just the way it is, and we don't have a hostility towards it. I want to ask you a finality here, because you're a woman. Shouldn't you be covered from head to toe where no one can see you? Shouldn't we allow that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Austria. Every time I see Austria, I always read it as Australia. Anyway.
With the missing L.
Yes. Okay. Austria, not Australia, has decided that they are going to ban full-face veils. Now, this doesn't really affect that many people in Austria because not that many women actually wear one. Could affect tourism to some degree. And basically, this is a reaction to the fact that they almost had a rather conservative fellow win their elections, and now are the government's trying to put some policy in that to some degree tries to, what's the good word for that? I don't know. Calm the situation. I'll say that.
So
calm the situation.
Some lefties there want to try to be as conservative as they can be. Yeah.
Yeah. Europe continuing to try and hide all of the symptoms of the problem that they have.
Exactly. So, in a sense, first and foremost, when I think of Austria, I think of skiing and mountains. I don't, I don't think you wear a hijab on the slopes. I just don't think it works.
I don't think it does either.
But should someone have their entire face hidden from view publicly? Do you believe that?
I don't believe that. I think that we as a society, and this is pretty generally, across the board in pretty much every culture except Islam, has essentially believed that, you should see a person's face.
Yeah.
And it's, I think that there's a lot of things that go into that, and one of them being security, that you can see the person, that you can, either know the person or not know the person. I mean, I would ask people here, how comfortable would everybody be if, we all walked around with ski masks on so you can see people's face? I don't feel like we wouldn't be very happy with that situation. We would feel very vulnerable.
Exactly.
And
I listen, I don't trust people with ski masks on. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's because of the movies I saw. Maybe it's that. But wearing an entire hijab, when I look at it, I think of, Iran, I think of Afghanistan, where they're wearing it completely covering every part of their body. I just think that's really I think that's an abuse of human right. I believe that you should see each other face to face. And for the safety of everyone, people should be able to see you, at least facially, to be able to describe you at any given point. That's just my opinion. Mary says, I notice even...
I think it's a valid opinion.
Yeah, thank you. Mary says, I notice even the men cover their faces. I don't like that. Because when you're exactly, when you're on the streets of D.C. and you see someone in the summertime with a ski mask on, you are not thinking, Muslim. Just, at least that's not, it's not the
when I see someone,
yes,
when I see someone whose face is covered, I don't think that they're there for a good reason.
Clutch your pearls, clutch your purse, something's going down. It's what we've been always taught. And listen, I don't have a problem with you practicing in private. If that's what you want to wear around the house, you think it's sexy, put the whole thing on. But in public, I need to see your face. Same time, need to see your face. I
And I really, really don't think that is an unreasonable expectation.
Melanie puts in the chat roll, the hijab bandit. That's a movie coming soon to you. It really is. Janis, we love you and we thank you so much for being with us on Tuesday nights at 10:10, bringing the most complex things down to a most simple form, so that people can have a better understanding. And I know many people say, "Well, Ken, maybe you're a little sexist. Maybe it's okay to wear a hijab, but it's good to hear your opinion on that. So I'm not framed in such a argument. We like to see people's faces, right?
We like to see people's faces.
Bingo. Show your faces. Take out the hijab. God still loves you. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Janis Hall, the J Hall World Report. She is the official world commentator on the Exceptional Conservative Show. Stay right there. Listen, we're not going away. When we come back, we need to talk about the Supreme Court justice. And I don't want you all thinking that this is the home run shot. I'm one who believes that maybe this is the double that sets up a couple of singles to get the run batted in. And hopefully some of you all will appreciate the sports metaphor that I'm using there, that we need three picks, and that the next one would be a outstanding Scalia type or Clarence Thomas type. I mean, straight up, hardcore, right up there. But you know what it's going to take for that to happen? It's going to take you, Mr. and Mrs. Conservative, Evangelical, Christian, Constitutionalist, Capitalist, to say, you know what? I'm voting out anyone who would get in the way of overturning Roe v. Wade. We had 1 million people walk during the March for Life in Washington, D.C. If the million of you all would get together and talk with the other 330 million people here in the U.S., I'm quite certain that we would make the changes necessary. Mary's asking, is he as worried as you? How's he doing? Dave is in the chat room. Dave is here. Dave Milner, the unpleasant blind guy, is here with us tonight. All is well with him. But we are praying tonight for his brother. And Lord Jesus, we ask you right now. We know that when we love those who are closest to us, those who gave birth, those who shared our raising, those who watched over us, our siblings, that there's always a great deal of stress when they go under the knife. We ask you right now, Father God, that your hands be the hands that performs the surgery, that you provide the comfort that the nurses would give. And Lord God, that every single thing is done with the excellence and exceptional work that only a great creator would allow. And that his healing is short-lived, his recovery is brief and full, and left with nothing more than vigor and a lust and love for life. In the name of Jesus Christ, I say that. Amen. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk a little bit more. I know some of you all are saying, Ken, there you go. You're being all negative. Why don't you stop being so negative, Ken? I know that's what you're saying. But I want you all, as optimistic as you are right now, I really need for you all to think this through, ladies and gentlemen, and know what we are getting into. We'll be right back with more of the best right after these messages.
With home values up and interest rates near all-time lows, you probably know that now is a great time to refinance, like the Johnsons, who saved $436 a month.
$436 a month?
It's simple. Just go to LendingTree.com,
compare loan offers for free, and see how much you could save in just 5 minutes.
I thought you said the bank gave you the best rate.
Yeah.
Lending Tree. When banks compete, you win.
I have to do everything myself.
Someone is sleeping on the couch tonight.
So what do you think about ebooks? Maybe you've never read an ebook before, but you're considering giving it a try. Or maybe you've been reluctant to try ebooks because you don't want to buy another expensive electronic device. Or maybe you already enjoy ebooks, but you haven't been able to find titles from your favorite Christian authors. Whatever your situation, ChristianBook.com has the solution. A trusted source for print books for over 30 years now offers ebooks. Our always free CBD reader allows you to read on the devices you already own without spending money on a new device. Thousands of Christian ebooks at ChristianBook.com means you can shop with confidence and choose from the titles you want. Plus, we are adding new titles all the time. Browse our huge selection of low-priced Christian ebooks the same way you would printed books, only now you can go from shopping to reading in seconds. Simply select the ebook you wish to purchase, confirm your account information, and start reading. Free samples of every ebook are available, so you can preview the book first, before you buy it. Plus, there's no lengthy app downloads and updates. Accessing the CBD Reader is as easy as going to cbdreader.christianbook.com and bookmarking the page. The CBD Reader holds your ebooks and bookmarks for you, no matter what device you're on. So, you can take your entire ebook library wherever you go and pick up right where you left off. Our customizable options make it possible to read your ebooks in different font sizes and styles. Want a large print version? You've got it in seconds with a simple click of the mouse. Already own a dedicated e-reader? Download your ebooks to your computer from your ChristianBook.com account and transfer them to your device. Try ebooks at ChristianBook.com and start reading your favorite books in seconds. Easy, economical, everywhere you want to read. Welcome to ChristianBook.com ebooks.
Time for an unpleasant blind guy, conservative bite. There comes a time in the life of a person, an organization, or a nation when deeply held principles must not only be stated, but must be declared not just as words, but as actions. As we stand in the first month of 2017, at the end of one presidential administration and the beginning of another, we have to recognize that our work is not done. Even now, progressives on both the left and the right and their Islamic allies are working to bring down civilization. Horrific crimes against the disabled are not being reported in our media. Children are being brainwashed through the agency of anti-extremism laws. And free speech is under attack throughout the civilized world, while those who would plunge that world back 1,500 years into the Dark Ages are promoted and protected. The elites have behind them money, influence, and legions of well-meaning people who link their personal nobility to forwarding the Islamo-progressive agenda. Those of us who would oppose them know our work has only begun. So as we prepare to tell the world the truth, we rededicate ourselves to this task. I originally made the following as a dedication to the English Defense League on the part of their American friends, but it applies to all of us who would use nonviolent means to promote Judeo-Christian ideals and the time-proven liberties and freedoms that come with self-rule. Adapted from President Abraham Lincoln's message to Congress, concluding remarks, Washington, D.C., December the 1st, 1862. Fellow citizens, we cannot escape history. We will be remembered in spite of ourselves. No personal significance or insignificance can spare one or another of us. The fiery trial through which we pass will light us down in honor or dishonor to the latest generation. We say we are for life. The world will not forget that we say this. We know how to save life. The world knows we do know how to save it. We, even we here, hold the power and bear the responsibility. In giving freedom to the slave, we issue freedom to the free. Are we all alike in what we give and what we preserve? We shall nobly save, or may we lose, the last best hope for earth. The way is plain, peaceful, generous, just. A way which, if followed, the world will forever applaud, and God must forever bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's our very good friend, Dave Milner. And quite frankly, his heart, his soul, his spirit is our concern this particular evening for our brother. As his brother suffers, he's our brother as well. Any brother of Dave's is our brother. And we're praying for his full recovery. I want to welcome you back to the non-commercial portion of the Exceptional Conservative Show, live from the nation's capital on the Exceptional Conservative Network, home to tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., the Shannon and Mike Show, The Right Way. Also, Willie Lawson at 9. Melanie, Money Talk with Melanie, our business diva at 10. And in the afternoon drive time from 4 to 6, Ralph and Lonnie Poindexter. And on Wednesday night, of course, the exceptional one will be here with a very special guest from the great state of Ohio, who will be honored at the Trailblazers Award next weekend. Not this one, but the following weekend. So, ladies, you see some of the dresses that are offered by PlusSizeFix.com. Go ahead, get your dresses, get your ticket, get in contact with Raynard, get your ticket so you can be there and show yourself, because the tickets are going real fast. And I don't want people being caught, you got the dress and you can't get in. You know what I'm saying? So how uncomfortable will that be? So please make sure that you get in contact with Raynard and get your tickets for the very special event, the Trailblazers Award. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, PM us as a group on Facey. They go. They're doing private. They're doing all kinds of stuff there in the Euro Pacific Bank Limited TECN chat room. If banking done the right way, of course, it's the Euro Pacific Bank Limited. You can find out more for those who are overseas listeners just by clicking on that particular link on our pages, the Euro Pacific Bank Limited. Now, we have, especially for those who tuned in from around the world, thank you so much for doing so. We really appreciate you. We have been graced this particular evening with the selection of Neil Gorsuch, who is the Supreme Court Justice, the first offering by Donald John Trump, the 45th President of the United States of America. Now, I want you all to know succinctly that this is not a slam dunk. Okay, this ain't that. And it's not because he's not a good pick. I mean, he's a pretty good pick. He's not my pick. My pick would have been Thomas Pryor down in Alabama. For my Alabamians who are listening, because I would have gone nuclear. I want someone that is such a strict constructionist that abortion wasn't on the books when George Washington came to power, so it should be on the books now. You know what I'm saying? That kind of guy. Thomas Pryor is that kind of guy who says, wait a minute, according to the Founding Fathers, so what if you got a cannon in your yard? That's yours. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind. Probably not that extreme, but certainly a Borkian or Scalian after his own right, and someone who can intellectually lay it down with you to make you understand exactly why the Founding Fathers were so right and America's leftists, headed by the titular head of the Democrat Party, Barack Hussein Obama, former president of the United States, are wrong. And so I would have chosen Thomas Pryor, but they went with a very, and I really believe, a very safe, of the options available for the first pick, I think a very safe choice. And I want you to understand that he clerked for Byron Whizzer White. Okay. Now, I want you to understand that Byron Whizzer White did not support Roe v. Wade. I know for a lot of y'all intellectuals out there who listen to the professor, Dr. Michael Jones, I'm quite certain, or the other intellectual there who is, of course, Agador, better known as the unpleasant blind guy. You all already know that Byron Whizzer White was a pretty brilliant attorney as well as a great football player. Also went to Oxford as he was a Rhodes Scholar, just as, quite frankly, Gorsuch attended Oxford and got his PhD. Brilliant man, and just an overall august justice, and quite frankly, someone who truly excelled at everything he put his mind and hand to. He was just that kind of guy. Just that kind of guy. Well, his opinions regarding Roe v. Wade are not lost. In fact, he was the dissenting decision in the Doe versus Bolton case. He also dissented in Roe v. Wade. And he said that the values, the U.S. Constitution values the convenience, the whim or caprice of the putative mother more than the life or potential life of the fetus. At least that opinion by the court. That was not, let me just make certain that y'all know this. That was not Whizzer White's opinion. What he was saying there is that those fools, litigating fools, he didn't use that term, but I'm going to give you a paraphrase, are trying to use their jaded moral value, their political correctness, and their sense of convenience in answering a question of life, when the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution squarely establish the fact that we have a creator, number one. Number two, that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are the cardinal foundations of our great nation from Jefferson onward. There certainly shouldn't be abortion at all. That's one of those situations where you're around Ralph Chittum's and it's like he virtually says, period, end of story. It's just kind of like that. For abortion, White said no, it just doesn't exist in the Constitution. Why are you making this stuff up? Well, that's not the case for the other guy that he clerked for. Now, that he clerked for Whizzer White, who was a staunch conservative, okay, and constructionist on the court. Very smart man. But he also served as a clerk under Anthony Kennedy, Supreme Court Justice, the moderate, the one who normally breaks the tie, because you got four, you at least have 4-4, and then he was somewhere in the middle, so he kind of like broke it one way or the other on certain cases. Well, they wrote, Kennedy, Souter, and O'Connor, justices during that particular time period, in which they were reconsidering Roe v. Wade, basically wrote that by rule of stare decisis, that simply because the law exists, it's constitutional now. There's nothing we can do to change it. You know what I'm saying? Hands up in the air kind of story. They delivered this opinion. They said, after considering the fundamental constitutional questions resolved by Roe. See, that's their problem. See, Kennedy believed that Roe, or at least the answer to Roe, against William Rehnquist and against Byron Whizzer White in 1973, who dissented, the question's been solved. It's kind of like what they believe when you listen to people who work for EPA or NOAA, and they tell you, or NASA, that climate change is settled science. It's just it's a law, when it's really not a law at all. It's just a theory, and even the theory is askew because the statistics are all over the place. And anytime you look at the statistics of global warming, it doesn't exist. In fact, we're going through a period called global cooling. But for Kennedy, he said the right of the woman to choose to have an abortion before viability with undue interference is constitutional. The state's power to restrict abortions after fetal viability, if the law contains exceptions for the woman's life or health, is constitutional. And the state's legitimate interest in protecting the health of the woman and the life of the fetus is constitutional. These principles do not contradict one another, and we adhere to each. Now, if you're looking at those balls that were just juggled in the air, and you're thinking to yourself, how do those balls get juggled up in the air like that? Because they will bounce into one another. Somehow, the states have rights that don't exist. The woman has rights that shouldn't exist, and the state's power to restrict is limited. Oh, those all balls are falling down. So he came up under Whizzer White and under Anthony Kennedy. So regarding abortion, those balls are juggled in the air. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you got a lot out of today's show, and I apologize if I offended anybody today with what I said regarding a vulgar word that was used, and I apologize. I will go back and make certain that it's never done again. But I want you to remember more than what I said earlier. I want you to remember this. God bless America. It's time for us to bless God. We'll be on tomorrow night. Same bat channel, same bat chime. Good night, and God bless for the United States of America.